Hello, Miss Prentice. How are you today?
Just fine, Larry.
Your usual lunch, Miss Prentice?
Yes, the usual, Anna.
Right away.
Are you always welcome where you invite yourself? Tongue-tied. Take your hat off the table. I'm allergic to dandruff.
You haven't seen what's in the hat, Miss Prentice.
My, what an odd hat band. What's your pleasure?
Your company for the weekend, beautiful.
A command performance?
Right. Just walk out of this joint in front of me. And no tricks.
Don't be funny. Do I look like a juggler?
You are leaving, yes?
I am leaving, no, Arnold.
Oh.
Cover the consomme with the saucer. I'll be back. Just where are we going to spend this last weekend?
You'll find out.
What's our next move?
Right into that car, beautiful.
Take 'em, Iggy. The next time you want to date a lady, I suggest gardenias instead of a gun. Take 'em to the office and put 'em on a leash. My lunch is getting cold.
Now, you get right in that car. Come on, come on.
You hold of the gag at me.
Oh, Iggy's pal. He was at our company and went away mad.
You go on from here. Iggy, you big lug, you let the character get away.
I'm sorry, I just turned my head for a second.
Enjoyed the visit. Be seeing you, beautiful. Be seeing you too, Mr. Snapbrim. Behind bars if I can arrange it.
Well, what happened? Did the roof fall in?
Yeah, that joker was too fast. Too fast for me to turn.
Spare me the details. Go soak your head, Iggy. It'll do you good. I'm expecting a visitor.
A visitor?
Who? I don't know. Evidently, somebody wants us out of business for the weekend. The magician or the rabbit will soon be here. Go outside, Emmy, and leave the door partly open.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to see Mr. B. Prentice.
Mr. Prentice, do you have an appointment?
Look here, young lady, I don't ask for appointments. I grant them.
May I help you?
Where's B. Prentice?
You're looking at her.
Indeed. A woman private investigator?
You were expecting maybe Senator Claghorn?
A woman, eh? That may not be bad. Not at all bad. You impress me as having the necessary qualifications.
Just what am I qualifying for? A horse race or the Rose Bowl parade?
I beg your pardon.
Skip it. What's your problem, Mr.
Bentry, Colonel Bentry.
William K. Bentry?
You're obviously familiar with my background.
Who's who keeps you in the foreground? You're the widower of the fabulous Connie Foresman, stepfather of William Foresman III and Judith Foresman, heirs to the Foresman Foods, an empire that has been parlayed from a jar of pickles into $1 million enterprise. Smoke?
No, thanks. Let's get down to business.
Yes, let's. Just what did you want to see me about?
About my stepson.
William Foresman III?
You know him?
Of him?
Well, he's been acting rather strangely of late. I might even say mysteriously. He's made a number of large and rather odd withdrawals. That is odd for him. Now, I wouldn't be concerned if there was any explanation, but there seems to be none.
Should there be?
Well, not necessarily. But many of these withdrawals have been in extremely large amounts. And he's confided in no one. Not even in the firm's attorney.
Who's he?
Jonathan Lowell. Lowell and I have been running the business since Mrs. Bentry died. I've been chairman of the board, and he's general counsel.
Have you tried questioning your stepson?
No. No, I was afraid that he might think I was prying. He's taken an apartment in the city.
Is he in the habit of moving out?
Occasionally. But he always lets us know where he is. This time, nothing but silence.
Let me get this straight. What concerns you is that there must be some strange connection between that apartment and the large withdrawals. Is that right?
Exactly.
Is it possible for a lady of, shall we say, agreeable disposition to have him hanging on the hook?
Bill's no playboy. As a matter of fact, since the war, he's been rather scientifically inclined. He's no fool.
I see. If he went in for that sort of thing, he'd have a receipt paid in full before the first round bell.
Rather quaintly put, but that's about it.
Exactly what do you want me to find out?
I want you to find out what's going on down there. Here's the address, the number of the apartment, and the unlisted telephone number.
Has he had any trouble with his sister?
No, they're devoted.
Could be he's helping her live her own life.
Judith lives her own life, inside or outside the house.
In order to identify Bill Foresman, I'll have to meet him. I never leave anything to chance.
He's spending the day at home. Why don't you drop by? I'll introduce you. Oh, we'll have to have some reason for your being there.
You're interested in art. I'm an expert, going to a private sale with you to guard against fraud.
Excellent. You'll find my address on the back of that card.
I'll drop by later. Oh, and one other thing. My rates. $75 a day and expenses.
Well, there you are. 1 week in advance, Miss Prentice.
My secretary will give you a receipt.
That won't be necessary. Good day.
If I ever heard a phony setup, that's it.
What do you care? We're paid in advance.
Okay, what's the pitch?
Get your hat. We're going to see if that apartment is accessible.
Oh, snap rim.
You better make up some more solutions, Chicago.
Okay, Professor.
Goodbye.
Is the invitation for the shotgun weekend still open?
I beg your pardon?
Don't be cute.
Look, sister, I don't know what you're trying to peddle, but I ain't buying any.
Not so fast.
I'm curious why guys with cap pistols want to take ladies they don't know on weekends they don't want.
Especially pretty ladies. That's kidnapping in my book.
Listen, Muscles, if you want the Pier 6 treatment, I can give it to you. But I'm wise to these shakedowns, so beat it. And if you're smart, you'll stay away from this layout.
Imagine that guy trying to play dumb on us. Could he be our boy, Foresman?
Nah, too rough at the seams. I wonder who Grandpa is.
Who?
The old guy.
He may be the guy giving the orders.
How soon can you find out who he is and where he fits into Foresman's picture?
He might be a sucker and go for the bait. I can play inquiring photographer and get our answers real quick.
Good. Hop to it. Then grab a cab and meet me outside the Bentry estate.
miss?
I have an appointment with Colonel Bentry.
Your name?
Miss Prentice.
If you'll take a seat, I'll inquire if he's at liberty to see you.
Mr. William! Mr. William! Everybody! Come quickly! Something has happened to the Colonel. Mr. William!
Severance, call Dr. Richards and Mr. Lowell. They're on the rear terrace.
Yes, sir.
Who are you?
Belinda Prentice, art investigator. I was employed by Colonel Bentry to examine some purchases he was planning to make. I just arrived. I don't want to intrude, Mr. Foresman, but that letter opener sticking in the Colonel's chest isn't a scarf pin. In case of homicide, I suggest you call the police.
If you don't mind, Miss Prentice, I'll handle this myself.
What's the trouble?
Colonel's dead.
I can't believe it.
Isn't it strange, Doctor, that there's so little blood from a wound like that?
Yes, it is. What did you have in mind?
Perhaps a heart attack. Perhaps something else.
Who is this young woman?
Someone the Colonel hired. She just arrived.
I see.
I examined the Colonel recently. He was in sound shape. Just a little tired. I recommended a series of vitamin injections. I was certain he'd be all right.
Do you rule out a heart attack altogether, Doctor?
It could hardly be a heart attack with a letter opener sticking in his chest.
Perhaps I'd better call the police.
I'll do it. I'll try to keep this as quiet as possible, William.
Murder makes noise. And headlines, Mr. Lowell.
Give me the police.
What's wrong, Bill?
Colonel's met with an accident, Judy. A bad accident.
He's dead. I know he's dead.
Judy, calm down. Miss Keats, take her to her room. Stay with her.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Hello, Severance. Hello, Inspector Prentice.
What are you doing here?
Business?
Don't get into mine. I'm Inspector Prentice, homicide. Where's the body?
Over there, Inspector.
We've got some routine police work to do here, so if you people will step out into the hall, matters will move more swiftly. Which one of you is Foresman?
I'm Foresman.
Well, we'll need a room to conduct a preliminary investigation. Purely routine.
Very well. Severance will show you to the den.
Okay, Doc, do your stuff. Get at it, boys. I'll call you in one at a time. First, Miss Prentice.
You know this young lady, Inspector?
Well, I ought to. She's my daughter.
Then you probably know about her being hired by the Colonel to investigate some artwork.
No, I didn't. But I'll soon find out about that.
Don't look so innocent. Now, why are you here?
Me? Colonel Bentry employed me to trace down some forgeries in so-called classic art.
Classic art. You didn't pass 4th grade drawing. You wouldn't know an old master from a whitewashed barn. Now, what's the dodge?
You're dating yourself, Dad. Today the word is pitch.
Pitch, dodge, caper, who cares? What's your angle?
What I'm doing here is strictly none of your business.
Don't get sassy. You obstruct the law and I'll jug you. Daughter or no daughter.
Oh, how sweet. I can just see it. Irate Papa Jug's daughter for following up his murder case.
Who called it murder in the first place?
I guess I did.
On what grounds?
Well, he wasn't tickling himself with that letter opener.
Who let you in?
Severance. Then he went to the library to announce me and found the colonel dead.
How long was he gone?
Possibly a few seconds. I'm not sure.
Why aren't you sure? You're sure of everything else.
I was thinking.
About what?
Just thinking.
You always were an unconvincing liar, Belinda. Remember, I've been calling fibs on you ever since you were born, and I still can, so give out.
Honest Injun, that's all I know. Foresman told Severance, the butler, or whatever he is. By the way, who is he?
Reformed drunk. Disbarred lawyer. Used to be quite a figure of a man. Some old guy downtown brought him back with some newfangled cure for alcoholics.
I see.
Well, what was it Foresman told Severance?
To get the doctor and Lowell. I told him to call the police, but he waited for Lowell.
He did? Why?
I don't know. Anyway, Lowell told Foresman that he'd try to keep it as quiet as possible.
Meaning little or no publicity, I suppose.
Yeah. Trying to keep a secret of a stiff like the famous colonel is like trying to hide the Statue of Liberty in a telephone booth.
Yeah. Well, you keep your nose clean. No matter what your business was with Colonel Bentry, this is a matter for the police. I know private eyes digging into this case while I'm in charge. You understand?
You're old-fashioned, Dad. It's private operator.
Don't get sassy.
Now, may I go?
No. Stick around the house for a while. I may want to talk to you later. And send Severance in on your way out.
Okay. By the way, what's a guy like Severance doing in a setup like this?
You take care of the phony art, and I'll take care of the suspects.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah? Well, I just thought I wouldn't tell you.
As if you knew. You're next.
And just where do you think you're going?
Inspector's permission, Eddie. Special detail.
That makes a difference.
Get going, Iggy.
Where to?
That apartment downtown.
What's up?
Our client was murdered.
What? Who's in charge?
My father.
Good. That gives us an out. Now, how about us going and getting something to eat?
Can't you keep your mind above your waistline? We can't give our client back his retainer, but we certainly can respect his memory by giving him his money's worth.
Oh, I suppose so. Say, what's with this Foresman's apartment? Any connection?
I don't know. Could be Mr. William Foresman III is the one who's trying to avoid private eye trouble.
Sure a screwy setup.
Say, what did you find out about the old man you followed?
He's Morris Ordsmon, a retired professor. Some kind of a scientist. He's running a mission down in the industrial section.
Reformer?
Sort of. He's experimenting with a cure for alcoholism.
Well, that checks. That's how Severance got into the Bentry estate.
Who?
A disbarred lawyer and a reformed drunk. He switched from a mouthpiece to a manservant. But I wonder why.
He probably got admitted to the bar too often.
Give me the master keys, Iggy.
What for?
I'm gonna go look over that apartment.
Oh, wait a minute, boy.
Come on, Iggy.
Okay.
You stay here.
Now, suppose there's something...
Sit tight.
scares me, here comes trouble.
Shut that door, you fool. I'll be right out. What's the matter with you, Chicago? You should know better than to open that door when I'm working.
What are you talking about? I just came in.
Well, somebody opened that door a few minutes ago. Why did you do that?
Bill doesn't want any snoopers around here.
Neither would he approve of violence.
Look, Professor, you do your job, and I'll take care of the wise guys.
This is getting monotonous.
Yeah, ain't it? How long will that knot you call a head hold out?
Longer than you think, Bud.
I wish your girlfriend was here.
I'll bet you do. Still want to take her out for that weekend?
Shut up.
I demand that you stop this brutality.
You don't like this show, Professor. Why don't you take a powder?
I will. But I intend to report this to Mr. Foresman.
That's okay with me. Come on, big stuff. Get up. You and me are going for a little ride.
Yeah, it's kind of stuffy here, ain't it?
But you needs more ventilation.
About time you got here.
He's slightly sore.
He always is.
You know you can get 5 years for impersonating a police officer?
Me?
Let me see the tin you flashed to get out of that house. It's mine. My own flesh and blood, a pickpocket. Well, I'll be hanged.
Maybe you think I should be.
What have you been up to?
Running my business now?
Don't get sassy. Murder is my business, and I don't think Bentry was murdered, and neither does the coroner. He was dead before he was stabbed.
I knew that.
How'd you know?
After all, Dad, I was there. If he'd been stabbed to death, there would have been plenty of gore. I have a clue that might prove he was poisoned.
Poisoned?
Yes, poisoned. I'll show you something. I found this beside the chair Bentry was sitting in. I hope to find the syringe it came from.
I've told you the penalty for withholding evidence, haven't I?
Yes. And if I weren't interested in stopping you from calling his death the result of a heart attack, I wouldn't have given it to you now.
Did you know Bentry was getting vitamin shots?
Yes. And if you find out who gave him the last one, you'll have your murderer.
As easy as that, huh, daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's get some dinner.
Oh, I'm sorry. I already have another date.
Look, you trying to get rid of me?
No, I just have another case.
What case?
That's my business, not yours.
Don't get sassy. If I find it has anything to do with my case, I'll make it my business. I'll get this needle analyzed. And remember what I told you about obstructing the law.
I'll remember, Daddy.
Is he kidding? Did the guy really die with a heart attack?
Yes, only not the usual sort.
Hello? Who? Oh, yes. Yes, I remember you very well. What is it you wanted to see me about? I see. Where? Here. How did you know my address?
Your stepfather gave it to me. As a matter of fact, that's what I want to talk to you about.
Oh. Well, in that case, come right over. Fine. What's the matter, Chicago? You're as jumpy as a taxi meter.
Jumpy? Me? You're crazy. Who was that on the phone?
Friend of Dad's. A lady detective.
She coming up here?
Yeah, what?
Dames get on my nerves. I think I'll shove off.
Suit yourself. I'm going to look over the professor's latest notes.
Okay.
You still here?
I thought I'd see what's playing at the show around the corner, but the line's busy. Guess I'll drop over anyway.
Before you go, will you mix some more solution?
Sure.
Chicago, come on out. And lock the door.
I'll wash up in the kitchen.
Fine. Hello, Miss Prentice.
Hello, Mr. Foresman.
Well, you certainly didn't waste any time getting over here.
I hope I haven't interrupted anything.
I know, not at all.
Thank you for seeing me.
Oh, naturally, I'm interested in anything pertaining to the Colonel.
It isn't what interests me at the moment. It's your connection with the man who owns that hat.
Oh, you mean Chicago?
I have another name for him. He extended me an invitation to be his guest for the weekend at the point of a gun.
This doesn't make sense. Suppose I get Chicago in here and we'll find out what this is all about.
Good.
Chicago? That's funny. He isn't here. Must have slipped out the back way.
Did he know I was coming here?
Oh, yes.
Well, that explains his sudden exit. He certainly doesn't want to run into me again. Just what is Chicago's tie-up with you?
He's sort of a bodyguard.
Do you need a bodyguard?
Well, actually, he's more of a watchman. I'm conducting some experiments with the Professor Ordsmon here. Material and equipment are very rare, and we need someone to protect them.
I see.
But there are a couple of things I don't see. Would you mind telling me why you're here? And why my stepfather gave you this address?
He hired me to check up on you.
I suppose he was concerned about my withdrawals from the firm.
That's only part of it. The colonel was afraid you were getting involved in something you might not get out of easily. Something you went into without consulting him or Lowell.
So that's it. But I still don't get the connection between Chicago and my stepfather's death.
Correction. Murder.
Police haven't called it murder. Why have you?
There's an answer to that, and I intend to find it.
Well, you won't find it here.
I'm not so sure. You don't seem particularly grieved by the colonel's death.
Frankly, I didn't know him very well. My mother remarried while I was still in the service.
But that doesn't explain what you're doing here.
Our experiments are extremely urgent. Any delay might cost me those large withdrawals you're so concerned about.
Oh. Mr. Foresman, there's something I'd like to do without police observation.
What's that?
Search your house. I believe the police have overlooked something.
When would you like to do it?
Right now, if possible.
Okay, let's get started.
Wait here, Iggy.
Dr. Richards, has the coroner completed his examination yet? What's the decision? Thank you, Doctor. Yes, I'll tell them. Oh, Miss Prentice, we weren't expecting you.
Some other people weren't either.
What's the verdict, Lowell?
Heart attack. The wound was accidental.
Evidently, he had been toying with the letter opener when the seizure gripped him.
What are you implying, Miss Prentice?
That your stepfather was dead before he hit the floor. As he pitched forward, his weight drove the letter opener into his chest.
I don't care what anybody says. He was murdered.
But, Judith, there's nothing to be gained by contradicting the law.
Why not?
Why are you so positive it's murder? It appears to be an open and shut case. As far as Mr. Lowell's concerned.
Miss Prentice, when I want your opinion, I'll pay for it.
Judith.
I think there's something all of you should know. Colonel Bentry did not hire me to investigate some phony art. He wanted me to find out some facts for him.
That he knew he was in danger.
Perhaps. I have a feeling that if I find all the facts, will prove that he died of a heart attack. One that was deliberately induced.
An interesting theory, Miss Prentice. But it's only a theory.
Not even that. A hunch.
I would like to leave to attend to the funeral arrangements, Mr. William.
Very well, Severance. Before you go, have Miss Keats fix some sandwiches and coffee.
Yes.
Get some rest, Judith.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Goodbye, William.
Bye, Lowell. Well, I think I'll clean up a bit. Judith, will you take care of Miss Prentice?
Yes, of course. Why did my stepfather hire you?
I'm sorry. Confidential.
I have a right to know.
Speaking of hiring, who hired Severance?
I did. What does he have to do with it?
Nothing. I merely noticed that he occupies a position above that of an ordinary butler.
Severance is not a butler. He's more of a social secretary. He knew the colonel before...
Before what?
Before Colonel Bentry married my mother. Would you care to redo your makeup?
Is it that obvious?
Not nearly as obvious as you are, Miss Prentice. Miss Prentice, I must know more about this confidential matter. Your price may be high, but I'll pay it.
I haven't anything to sell at the moment, but I'll give you a quotation when I have. My, what a lovely room.
Was I the one the Colonel paid you to spy on?
Why? Have you been playing games, too?
The Colonel rarely approved of anything I did. He simply refused to believe that anything good could come from my association with Professor Ordsmon.
Professor Ordsmon?
You know him?
I've heard of him and his work. Was there a feud between Bentry and Ordsmon?
Of long standing.
Was it bitter? Bitter enough to kill?
Ordsmon? Certainly not. He's as gentle as a lamb.
Even lambs can become lions if the stakes are high enough.
Shall we freshen up?
I'll be going now, Mr. William.
All right, Severance. Where are you going, Judy?
I promised Professor Ordsmon I'd help him this evening. I'll get a bite downtown. See you later.
Okay.
Goodbye, Miss Prentice.
Goodbye.
Well, I guess that just leaves the two of us.
My man is waiting outside. I'll dismiss him and be right back. There's a room upstairs I'd like to search before we eat.
Upstairs? Which room is that?
I'll show you when I come back.
All right.
Tail that car and call me here later. Now step on it. This is the room I meant. Whose is it?
Severance's.
Shall we have a look?
Sure. Wow.
Severance certainly keeps an untidy room.
Can't imagine him doing a thing like this.
He didn't. Somebody was here looking for the same thing I am. And obviously found it.
Oh, what now?
I think I'll try some of that food.
Good idea.
Just what kind of an experiment are you and Professor Ordsmon working on?
It's a light ray theory for long-range night photography.
Colonel Bentry might have been proud of your efforts if you had only told him.
No, I'm afraid he never would have approved of Ordsmon. They became bitter enemies after my mother died.
What started it?
Well, the Colonel refused to grant Ordsmon the funds that my father had left him for his earlier experiments.
And after the quarrel, Professor Ordsmon retired?
Yes. But he knew more about my formula than anyone else. He offered to help me, provided I didn't tell the Colonel.
And you agreed?
Yes, only because Ordsmon insisted. Neither Judith nor I approved, but he seemed to regard the Colonel as the only obstacle which might defeat him.
I hope you realize Ordsmon had a nice little motive for removing that obstacle.
Your business makes you suspect everyone, doesn't it?
In my business, you have to. Until you catch the man with blood in his eye.
Excuse me. Hello? Yes, just a moment. Sounds like your man.
Thanks. Yes? I see. Good. Sit tight, Iggy. I'll be there on a double.
Must you go?
Just as soon as you can get me a cab.
Well, in that case, I'll get you a cab.
Hey, boss, over here.
What's the lowdown, Iggy?
Well, I tailed the doll down here and I saw her heading into the mission. The place was pretty crowded, so I just moseyed in after her. Then Severance shows up and starts to argue with her. I don't get the full drift of what they're arguing about, but the flunky is plenty hot. Then I heard him tell her he'd give her 10 minutes to make up her mind and he'd be waiting outside for her.
What then?
Then she got a hold of the big moose.
What big moose?
Some character called Big Mac. He and the Judy gal have a nice, quiet discussion. Like you don't get any of that, but I see her slipping some dough. And then they... Look.
What's the rest of it, Iggy?
Then Big Mac went outside where he buttonholed Severance and gave her that old comradeship routine. At first, Severance didn't want no part of it, but the big guy kept insisting, and then they went to saloon together.
Severance went with him?
Mm-hmm. First, he just ordered sarsaparilla, but the big guy kept potting straight ones in front of him. Then Severance went for a Boilermaker. That's a short, straight one with beer for chaser.
What happened to Severance after that?
Are you kidding? The last time I peeked, he was stiffer than a laundried collar.
Uh-oh. I wonder what her angle is. Let's put the vacuum on that gorilla. Give me a minute and then come in.
Okay, boss.
What'll it be, honey? A bottle of beer, dear. And tell that big hunk of beef at the bar I want to see him. He's a bad egg, honey. Don't worry, I'll scramble him. Send him over. Okay. It's your funeral. Hey, Mac. There's a lady over there who wants to see you.
Me?
Yeah, you big lug. Hey, Jimmy, give me a beer.
Want to see me, Toots?
Hi. Sit down.
Okay, sister, but I'm warning you. I'm dynamite.
Be careful you don't shake yourself. You're apt to blow up.
Why, you two-bit lady cop. I ain't gonna sit with you.
Shut up or I'll run you in.
You and who else?
Don't look now, big boy. But there's a man in back of you with a little convincer in his lap. If you want it that way.
Okay, chum. You heard the lady. This can be used two ways. One to rap you over the head and the other put a hole through that blubber of yours.
What do you want?
Did you know the man you held up outside a while ago?
I didn't hold up nobody.
I could call it that.
I don't know nothing about him.
What did the lady pay you to get him drunk?
I ain't good at guessing games.
Maybe you want your memory refreshed.
Okay. She gave me 20 bucks and 10 for drinks. He pretty near drunk up the sawbuck.
Okay, big stuff. Get lost for a few days. And keep your mouth shut about this.
Beautiful.
You're a persistent stinker. But this time, Junior, you're treading on quicksand. Look out you don't choke.
There's no danger of that.
My. What strange birds fly in this squadron?
You were expecting me?
You or some other double-crosser like you.
I'm not in favor of loose words or accusations, Miss Prentice. You seem to have a lot of theories.
That might interfere with your plans?
Something like that. I have deemed it advisable for you to leave the city for a few days. You and your man have chosen to argue the point with me. I have become impatient, Miss Prentice, and insist that you do as I say.
What's the ticket if I don't? A hole in the head? Or a slight dose of poison?
Don't be facetious. I'm not playing penny ante.
You're holding the cards, Mr. Lowell. What are you dealing?
Disappear for a week and earn $1,000.
Interesting proposition. Listen, Gonzo. I understand it's customary for a gentleman to give a lady her seat.
I'll give the orders here, Miss Prentice.
That's what you think. You heard what the lady said. On your feet or fall flat in your face.
Don't get playful. Iggy was a trigger-happy Marine. Need I say more?
You're holding the high cards now, Miss Prentice. How much do I have to pay to see your hand?
You can't beat a pat hand, Mr. Lowell. I suggest you throw your cards on the table and get out of here. Take your Pekingese with you and lean them against the first tree you pass. And stay out of my way, or you'll get hurt. Especially you, Mr. Lowell. Now get going, the both of you.
My day's coming, fat boy.
Don't you get no ideas, or I'll put this gun where you least expect it.
We'll meet again, Miss Prentice.
Shall I tail him?
No need to, Iggy. Now that I know for sure that Lowell's in on the play.
Hello?
Bill, this is Belinda Prentice. I want you to come to my apartment immediately.
Oh, you trying to compromise me?
If you don't hustle, there won't be much left to compromise. Your pals are on the prowl, and I think you're number 2 on the stiff parade.
Who are my pals?
I'll tell you when I see you. You're in for a sudden case of rigor mortis, unless you move quickly.
Okay. What's that address? 481 Park West Apartments. Don't worry, I'll be right over.
Hello, Bill. Come on in.
Hello, Iggy. What's the matter now?
Belinda will tell you.
Oh.
Hey, boss. Bill's here. Grab yourself a seat.
Thanks.
He'll be out in a minute.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Belinda. What's up?
I hope I haven't frightened you.
Well, if you have, I'm trying my best to conceal it.
Now, wait a minute. This is no joke. Lowell and that thug ugly Chicago paid me a visit, together.
Oh, in Chicago? Why, they don't even know each other.
No? Well, Chicago may be your watchman, but he's definitely Lowell's muscle man.
What did they want?
They wanted me to leave town, or else. A small fee was tossed in as a bribe. But Iggy and a .38 automatic convinced them they were wrong. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Hello? Why, yes, Dad. He was at the office with a character named Chicago. They left together. What? Well, I suggest you pick up this Chicago. You might find it at Foresman's apartment. You know where it is? Fine. Yes. Foresman's right here. Check.
What was that all about?
Well, you can stop worrying about Lowell. He's dead. On the front lawn of your estate.
Oh.
You better get out there at once. Come on, Iggy. You look like you need a drink, Severance.
Well, daughter, looks like this case kind of got away from you.
I wouldn't say that, Dad.
Did any of you besides Chicago see Lowell tonight?
I did. So did Severance. He stopped in about an hour ago.
Did he ask for Mr. Foresman?
As a matter of fact, he did. He had something for Bill's signature. I told him he'd gone out a few minutes before. We had a drink, and then he left.
You've been putting the heat on me all day. Now you're going to explain what's behind it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What have you got on him, Belinda?
Threat of arms and attempted kidnapping. Where did you pick him up, Dad?
At the Foresman apartment, just as you said. He was there with Professor Ordsmon, so I brought them both along. This Chicago's been singing a strange tune.
Never mind the tune. I'm interested in the lyrics.
Chicago told me that Lowell was embezzling company funds without Bentry's knowledge. Then when young Foresman started to make those large withdrawals, Lowell used them to cover up his own deficit. Then when he found out that Bentry had hired a private detective to check up on Foresman, he became panicky, fearing exposure.
Then it was Lowell who ordered you to get rid of me.
He just wanted you kept out of circulation for a while, that's all.
How did you know Lowell?
I knew that mouthpiece from way back. He got in touch with me and said he was in a jam, that I had to do this job for him or else. To play safe, he had me sent to you through the company's personnel department.
So he was using your record to keep you on his team, huh?
You guessed it, Copper.
I don't think there's any need for anxiety about what happened here tonight, Belinda. The facts are obvious. Lowell knocked off Bentry, hoping to make it look like a heart attack, so he could accuse him of embezzlement if it became necessary. But something happened to his plans, and he decided to cash in his chips.
As simple as that, is it, Dad? And how did you arrive at that conclusion?
Through your help, Belinda. That needle you found was the one clue to prove that Bentry did not die of a heart attack. We put that needle under a microscope, and we discovered traces of a fast-acting deadly poison. When we put the poison to the test, we discovered that it absolutely disappears when introduced into the bloodstream. Lowell must have substituted the poison for the vitamins.
That's all I needed to know. Now I'll fill in the missing pieces to this puzzle. Mr. Foresman, I know that you, Lowell, Dr. Richards, Miss Judith, and Severance were in the house when the Colonel got that injection.
Are you inferring that one of us gave the Colonel the injection that was fatal to him?
Exactly. Any one of you had just as much chance as Lowell.
Couldn't Bentry have given himself the shot?
I think not, Dad. When he called at my office, he picked up the letter opener and started toying with it. It was a habit, you know, just like some people doodle. And that's probably what he was doing when he got the hypo.
Could be, because he certainly was dead before he was stabbed.
Doctor, isn't it unusual to prescribe vitamin shots for a man in sound condition?
Not at all. He'd been taking them on and off for the past 3 months.
Did you personally administer all the injections?
That wasn't necessary. Colonel Bentry sometimes administered them himself.
Professor, you give shots at your mission as part of your alcoholic cure, do you not?
Yes, but the Colonel and I were not on speaking terms. He never would have allowed me to administer to him.
Miss Judith and Severance have often helped you with your work. Have they ever given any injections?
Miss Judith has. She was experienced in such matters. She was a nurse's aide during the war.
Miss Judith.
Yes?
Why did you hire Big Mac to lure Severance back to drink?
Why, I did no such thing.
Don't lie, Judith. I've already questioned Big Mac, and it was you who gave the Colonel the shot, thinking it was a vitamin dose. Isn't that true?
Yes, it's true. But I didn't know it was poison.
When he fell to the floor, you dropped the syringe and ran out of the house.
I was frightened.
Severance, you removed the syringe when you discovered the body. Then you were too upset to notice the needle had broken off.
Yes. I was standing at the head of the stairs. I saw Miss Judith run out of the library and through the front door.
You thought she was responsible, so you hid it to protect her.
Miss Judith wouldn't have done it deliberately, Miss Prentice.
Why did you follow Judith to the mission?
Well, someone had ransacked my room and stolen the syringe. Miss Judith didn't know I had it, so it must have been someone who had seen me remove it. I went to warn Miss Judith. I knew she was innocent and tried to get her to go to the police.
I thought that if I got him intoxicated, I could gain a little more time, hoping the murder would be solved.
You must have been the bright boy I saw leave Severance's room. What did you do with that syringe?
I turned it over to Lowell.
That's right, he did. Lowell blackmailed me with it tonight. He wanted control of the company's voting stock. He said my fingerprints were on it. And if I didn't sign a power of attorney, he'd turn his evidence over to the police.
Did you sign it?
What else could I do?
That's strange. We didn't find the syringe or the power of attorney on Lowell.
I'm sorry, Severance. I can understand your devotion and loyalty to Judith, but it all narrows down to you. You were the only other person in the house. As an ex-lawyer, you must realize that the only way you can protect Judith is to produce the evidence which will support her story, even if it means incriminating yourself.
I suppose you're right, Miss Prentice. Here's the power of attorney and the syringe. But I didn't murder Lowell. I overheard him blackmailing Miss Judith. I followed him out on the lawn and demanded the return of the power of attorney. He drew a gun. I grabbed his hand, and in the struggle, the gun went off. He accidentally killed himself. Here you are, Inspector.
The fingerprints on the gun will clear him. If my handling of your case, Inspector, has bewildered you, I'll be glad to hold your head.
So I can steal my badge again? No, thank you.
Well, Inspector, your daughter has proved that Judith is innocent and that Severance acted in self-defense.
Not so fast. That's a decision for the DA to make, not a private eye. But you needn't worry. The real killer's paid for his crime. Well, Chicago, got a little surprise for you. We're shipping you back to your hometown. Your local constabulary has something they want to pin on you, and it's not a good conduct medal.
What do you mean? They ain't got nothing on me.
No, nothing a short term in prison won't cure. Take him downtown, officer.
Can I go with him, Inspector?
To Chicago?
No, downtown. There's a couple of raps I want to put on him that'll show, but not on his record.
File it away, Iggy, as unfinished business. Well, Foresman, it looks like Belinda saved your life.
I guess you're right, Inspector.
Why, Dad, you're actually paying me a compliment.
Yes, and I'll pay for your dinner. Come on.
I'm sorry. I have a previous engagement.
What, another case?
Could be.
Well, I guess it lets me out. You don't have to hit me over the head with a blackjack.
What a happy thought.
Don't get sassy.